Or you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, as I am innocent.
At the train station, there's a room upstairs. And we would have sex up there too. Would happen every day.
Michael Jackson was one of the most famous people on the planet. It turns out he was also the target of intensive FBI scrutiny.
Charles, I have also read that you have extensively studied the Michael Jackson FBI files. What are the findings of the FBI files and whether child porn was ever discovered at Neverland?
No child porn was ever found at Neverland, and in fact, there was a story that some child porn had been found around the time of the trial. And so the judge and the prosecutor both released a stipulation publicly, which was that no child pornography had ever been found at Neverland, at Michael Jackson's properties. So that's not just something that fans say, that's the judge in the trial. And even the prosecutor said that there was no child porn. In terms of what the FBI files tell us, what they tell us is that for over a decade, the FBI was intermittently involved in investigating Michael Jackson. There's no evidence of sustained surveillance or sustained investigation, only of the authorities occasionally calling on the FBI to assist them with their investigations. But nonetheless, the files tell us that more than 20 different FBI departments investigated Michael Jackson at one time or another, and none of them found any evidence of any wrongdoing. Perhaps the most compelling piece of information that came out of those files was when the prosecutors in the 2003-5 Arvizo case sent away all of the computers that they seized from Neverland for FBI analysis, and the FBI was unable to find anything incriminating on a single one of them. So the FBI files alone don't exonerate Michael Jackson, but they certainly don't incriminate him.
And in 2005, there was a study done by ABC with the top psychiatrists in the country, and they've all concluded that Michael Jackson's behavior would be very rare amongst pedophiles. And there are other psychologists and psychiatrists who echoed that belief.
Derselbe Vater hat noch vor 2 Jahren im Interview gesagt, es hätte seinem Sohn nicht geschadet und Eltern sollten ihre Kinder ruhig öfter schlagen. Und immerhin hätte er seinen Sohn so geschlagen, dass er jetzt eben die Nummer 1 im Pop-Business gewesen wäre. Vor diesem Vater hat er Angst gehabt. Auf der anderen Seite hat er immer die Liebe seines Vaters gesucht. Und derselbe Vater hat sich über sein Gesicht, über seine Akne, über seine Nase mokiert. Und er wollte dem Vater gefallen. Man würde sagen, eigentlich perverserweise oder paradoxerweise, weil er hat ja Angst gehabt, aber er hat die Liebe des Vaters nie bekommen. Und dieser Liebe läuft er zeitlebens hinterher. Und was er jetzt macht, ist, dass er Kinder um sich sammelt, selber Kinder haben will, um eigentlich diesen Kindern Vater zu sein. Er ist also Kind und Vater in einer Person. Und das, was er mit den Kindern macht, macht er eigentlich mit sich selber. Also im Herzen eigentlich ein ganz reiner, ein ganz guter, ein ganz gutmütiger, ein ganz naiver Mensch.
Emotionally.
In the absence of Michael Jackson, who was on tour out of the USA at the time, search warrants are carried out on his premises. The Los Angeles Times wrote, "Videotapes seized from homes belonging to Michael Jackson do not incriminate the entertainer, and the lack of physical evidence of alleged sexual molestation has left investigators scrambling to get statements from other potential victims. There's no medical evidence, no taped evidence," the source said. The search warrant didn't result in anything that would support a criminal filing. The Chandlers hire attorney Gloria Allred, who gives a press conference where she states the accuser is willing to testify in a court. In reaction to that, a couple of days later, the Chandlers fire Allred and replace her with a civil attorney, Larry Feldman. According to Ray Chandler's book, this was because the Chandler family wanted to steer the case toward a highly profitable settlement, rather than a grand jury indictment and a criminal trial.
Larry Feldman, on behalf of the Chandlers, files a $30 million civil lawsuit against Michael Jackson. Later on, Michael Jackson, who is still on tour at this point, cancels several more dates of his Dangerous World Tour due to serious health problems. He eventually cancels all the remaining dates of the tour after his Mexico concert due to his dependency on painkillers. In the meanwhile, police interviewed 40 to 60 children who had ever spent time with Michael or at his Neverland Ranch. No one corroborated the accuser's story. All of the children said nothing inappropriate or suspicious had ever been done to them by Jackson.
I've told the police. In fact, if anybody wants to go back to 1993 when I was interviewed by the Santa Barbara Police Department, I sat there and I gave them the names. They're on record. They have all of this information, but they were scanning Michael Jackson. All they cared about was trying to find something on Michael Jackson.
Who you said, by the way, did not abuse you.
Who Michael was innocent, and that was what the interview was about with the police in 1993. I told them he is not that guy, and they said, well, maybe you just don't understand your friend. And I said, no, I know the difference between pedophiles and somebody who's not a pedophile because I've been molested.
It was June 13th, 2005, that 12 jurors unanimously acquitted Michael Jackson on various charges of child molestation, conspiracy, and providing alcohol to a minor. It's difficult to know how history will remember the Michael Jackson trial, perhaps as the epitome of Western celebrity obsession, perhaps as a 21st century lynching. Personally, I think it will be remembered as one of the most shameful episodes in journalistic history.
In the last few weeks, a large amount of ugly, malicious information has been released into the media about me. The information is disgusting and false.
It's not until you find yourself digging through newspaper archives and rewatching hours of TV coverage that you truly understand the magnitude of the media's failings. It was industry-wide. No doubt, there were certain reporters and even publications and TV stations that overtly favoured the prosecution. But many of the media's shortcomings were institutional. In a media obsessed with sound bites, how do you reduce 8 hours of testimony into 2 sentences and remain accurate? In an era of rolling news and instant blogging, how do you resist the temptation to dash out of the courtroom at the earliest convenience to break the news of the latest salacious allegations, even if it means missing a slice of the day's testimony? Looking back on the Michael Jackson trial, I see a media out of control. The sheer amount of propaganda, bias, distortion, and disinformation is almost beyond comprehension. Reading the court transcripts and comparing them to the newspaper cuttings, the trial that was relayed to us didn't even resemble the trial that was going on inside the courtroom. The transcripts show an endless parade of seedy prosecution witnesses perjuring themselves on an almost hourly basis and crumbling under cross-examination. The newspaper cuttings and TV news clips detailed day after day of heinous accusations and lurid innuendo. It was November 18th, 2003.
Approximately 70 investigators from the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney's Office served a search warrant at Neverland Ranch in Los Olivos. Additionally, an arrest warrant for Mr. Jackson has been issued on multiple counts of child molestation. The bail amount on the warrant has been set at $3 million.
As soon as the news of the raid broke, news channels abandoned their schedules and switched to 24-hour coverage. When it emerged that Jackson was accused of molesting young cancer survivor Gavin Arvizo, the boy who famously held the singer's hand in Martin Bashir's Living with Michael Jackson documentary, the media went into overdrive. Networks were so obsessed by the Jackson scandal that a terrorist attack in Turkey went almost entirely unreported, with only CNN bothering to broadcast George Bush and Tony Blair's joint press conference about the disaster.